Hi everyone, welcome to Tarot 101. In this video we're going to explore the history of tarot. Don't worry, it will be a short one, and then we will jump into different systems of decks. How are they different, how are they similar, and this will lead into how to choose your own deck. Okay, so starting with the history of tarot. In the last video we talked about the parts of tarot decks, so the minor and the major arcana. And the minor arcana, including court cards, but only limited to Knight, Queen and King, they were originally just playing cards. Yeah, so if you ever had a deck of plain playing cards, this is the most of what the normal tarot deck has to offer. So just a little tidbit, there are people who read from playing cards, and you can too. But before that, okay, so the playing cards, from what we know, they probably originated from Turkey around 15th century, and then they were introduced to Europe when the Italy were really taken with it. They loved it, and they created their own little part that we call now major arcana. So we can thank them for that. They come from another little playing game called trumps. When they triumphed, the higher they were, the higher cards trumped the lower cards. So that's where they came from. And the earliest known deck, incomplete, but with the structure we have now with the minor and major arcana, it comes from 15th century Milan, called Visconti Sforza. And it was a wedding gift for two families that were joining in the marriage. And after that, we know it was transported to France, and till 18th century were super popular there. And they created their own deck that is known as Tarot de Marseille. And there are lots of people that use that deck today, and it is I don't have a Tarot de Marseille deck, but you can Google it. I will leave the names in the description, so you can look at the different galleries, and they have wonderful colors. What I've seen when I seen the colored decks, they had this really nice primary colors, so that's super nice. Okay, and then they were kind of taken to London, and in the 1888 it was Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was created, and it was an order that created their own deck. I have it actually with me, and they were mixing Kabbalah, Neoplatonism, esoteric Christianity, Freemasonry, pagan symbols, and more. So it is a super advanced deck for me. They have cards that I won this deck in a giveaway, so I'm super thankful. But their imagery can be quite difficult for a novice. So when it comes to Golden Dawn decks, I wouldn't recommend them for the novices. I would recommend them though for anyone who already knows quite a lot about tarot but wants to try something new. Okay, so for example, this is a moon card in this deck. Oh, I don't have I have the Okay, that I will leave that for later when I show different. I will show the same card in different decks because I have four decks and a little mini one. Okay, so getting back to the Order of the Golden Dawn. Okay, so it was a really huge deal, and rest of the decks I will talk about were created by the pupils or the students, members of the Golden Dawn Order, and the most known deck was created by two former members, Arthur Edward Waite, and the artist who drew it was Pamela Coleman Smith, and they published in the 1909, and it was known as Rider Waite, and today is mostly known as Rider Waite Smith, or the initials RWS. So if you see while browsing RWS, that means it is this deck or a clone of it. Okay, so it was really something because it was first widespread deck who had scenes for minor arcana. And the decks with the symbols only for minor arcana that were published before that are called pip deck, and they just as I showed earlier, they only have symbols. So that's the Golden Dawn, and it has only symbols for the minor arcana. And the Rider-Waite Smith introduced symbols for, introduced scenes for the minor arcana. So as we can see, for example, this was 7 pentacles, this is 7 pentacles, and this is 7 of pentacles. So as you can see, it is a really different story when you see this card and when you see this card. So you have something to go on to intuitively see what they're doing. Okay, so the Rider-Waite Smith, it is mostly recommended for the new users, and I would also recommend it. The clone of Rider-Waite Smith, that means it is based on the Rider-Waite Smith, but it has their own scenes for the cards, but the meaning stays basically the same. So it is my first tarot deck, the Triple Goddess deck, and I really recommend choosing a Rider-Waite Smith or Rider-Waite Smith clone if you don't like the old imagery. I really recommend a clone as your first deck. Okay, so last mostly known deck today is the Thoth Tarot. Okay, so I will probably butcher this name. I heard people say it so many different times. It's a Egyptian god, Thoth, and we just call him in Polish Thoth. So I never really learned how to say it in English properly. I have to do my research, so I'm sorry about that. In the next video I will probably already know. So it was created by another former member of the Golden Dawn Order. You probably heard of him, the infamous Aleister Crowley. We won't jump into his life and stuff, but the deck was painted by Frida Harris. It was published in 1969. It is a wonderful set of watercolor paintings, and it is really something else. I don't have this deck. I have, basically by accident, I bought the clone of this deck. And it has wonderful images, and it is also a pip deck. So it has symbols for the minor arcana, but what I bought turned out to be kind of hybrid between clone and recoloring. So the minor arcana have images that the Thoth Tarot doesn't. So it is quite a nice quite a nice hybrid. It's called Liberty, and the flip through is on my channel of this deck. Okay, so we explored the basic history of tarot. We didn't go actually, of course, into in depth. So also, if you hear about tarot coming from ancient Egypt, I read in a book, Tarot Wisdom by Rachel Pollack. She is a wonderful, wonderful tarot teacher. She wrote so many books on tarot, and I really recommend her. She told that, she wrote in her book that it really doesn't matter if some people believe it's from ancient Egypt, if it was given to us by aliens or anything, because tarot works. It just works. It doesn't have to. It came. If it came from actual playing cards, it doesn't matter because it works in its own way. Okay, and that being said about the history. Okay, now we will jump shortly into systems. Okay, so what do I say when I mean system? It means that different decks, depending on who and when they were created, might have different traditional meanings, especially for minor arcana, because the major arcana, the traditional meanings probably won't change really much, but the minor arcana, especially when there is Golden Dawn or Rider-Waite, they might have drastically different meanings. Okay, so I took some examples. So, for example, the Devil card, okay? So, actually, the Devil card is not... most people say it's about... what do you call it? When you... addictions, and having like this lowly life, being just... also look at the backs of the cards. When you're just chained by this big old devil, and he does with you what he wants. And I was listening to this wonderful podcast, Tarot for the Wild Soul. I will also probably drop the name in the description. And the host had, I think, a whole episode about the devil. And it changed my perspective about the devil a little bit. I won't jump into it, but there are more to explore about the devil, so I chose him. Okay, so the oldest one would be from the tarot of the tarot, Hermetic Tarot of the Golden Dawn Order. I don't have Tarot de Marseille, but it is probably, I think, just a big old devil. So then next chronologically would be it also looks different than Rider-Waite-Smith, but for example this guy. Okay, and if you are into more of the symbols and stuff with the Egyptian vibe. And last but not least, this little scene from my Triple Goddess Tarot. It's also an interesting iteration of the devil when she chooses to go into the woods and shape her own path. So that would be example for the major arcana. And also I also showed already about the minor arcana, but just a little reminder. So this would be Hermetic Tarot pip deck. This would be from the Liberty. It normally would be a pip deck, but it has scene. But look at this scene and compare it to this scene. So it looks drastically different. So when I said the different systems, I think you can see what I mean by that. Okay, last thing in this video, really important thing to remember, that meanings and images on the tarot decks and meanings we attribute to them change organically through the centuries. The Marseille, also the Marseille and Rider-Waite, they have Christianity-centered approach. So they will have different symbols, they will have different images than Golden Dawn and Thoth, that take from different tradition, from Egyptian, as I said, all the esoteric, pagan, Greek mythologies. So it will have different meanings. So tarot is not this, that not every card will have the same meanings, and also you can attribute your own meaning during your journey with tarot, and your approach might change. And for example, there are different systems. I think I didn't have much contact with them, but there is, for example, Egyptian tarot that only takes from Egyptian traditions. There are also contemporary tarot decks that include more, for example, triple goddess tarot. It also it only explores femininity, the divine feminine, and I think the only male card it's of those from lovers and for the emperor. And there are decks that show more diversity, that show more people of color, and I think that's wonderful that tarot changes, and I believe it will not be the end, it is just the beginning. So if you if you are watching this far, in the next video I will talk about how to choose and get your hands on your own deck. And if you have any comments, any questions, please let me know in the comment section, and also what you want to know and want to watch in the future. Okay, so see you later guys, and bye.